All right, guys, this is pattern layout and cutting directions for your duffel bag project. We are going to start by looking at this part of the directions right here. Okay, now zoom back. We are going to start by laying out our fabric. The fabric, when you purchase it, or when you open it from your kit, is going to be folded in half like this. Keep your fold, your selvage edges are over here together, and we've got our two cut edges right here. We're just going to lay it out nice and flat. We really don't need to worry about pressing it. These little creases that we're seeing, those are not going to be too big of a problem later. Your tissue paper here, and this is a little bit heavier than a tissue paper, but you'll probably need to unfold this and then cut around the pattern pieces. You're cutting on the solid line. Make sure that as you cut out your pattern pieces that you cut out the notches. You cut them away from the pattern. You're going to be utilizing those notches throughout this process, so you want to make sure that you don't just lop them off as you're cutting out your pattern. Same thing with your pocket. You're just going to open it up and you're going to cut on that solid line so that you have your pattern ready to go. So we're going to start with the body of our bag. We're going to put our pin down through all the layers of fabric and back up to the top. We want to make sure that our pins do not extend over our cutting line or over the pattern piece. We're just going to work our way around the pattern. Now, typically, general rule of thumb is you want your pins to be about a hand width apart. We're just going to work our way around the pattern, kind of getting this to hold everything in place. You don't need to pin to pin to pin to pin. About a hand width apart, it just needs to hold in place long enough for you to cut out your project. You'll notice that as I'm sticking the pin down through the fabric, I'm kind of lifting the pattern up and the fabric up a little bit to get the pin to come back to the top side. That just makes it a little bit easier to get that pin secured in place. So we're going to work our way all the way around our pattern here. We just need enough pins to hold everything into place. Next, we're going to lay out our bag pocket pieces. I've got two pieces of fabric here. I can cut them both at the same time. I'm just going to lay them right on top of each other, and I'm going to place my pocket in my space. I'm going to pin our four corners here. I just need to pin it enough that it's going to hold it in place so that while I'm cutting, the pattern doesn't move on me. I want to make sure that my pins are not extending over my cutting line. And now I'm ready to cut. It might be a good idea to have your teacher just kind of double check your pinning before you start cutting. Remember, measure, check twice, cut once. Using my shears, I'm just going to work my way around this pattern. Remember, you want to cut out those notches, cut them out away from the body of your project. We're going to work our way around. The straighter you can cut following the outside edge of your pattern, the easier your pattern's going to be to line up when you start sewing. So we're just going to work our way around, trimming out those notches, being careful not to cut them off. It takes just a moment here to cut all the way around. This is much easier to use your shears than it would be to use a rotary cutter, so please make sure that you are using your shears. If you are a left-handed student, talk with your teacher. They do have left-handed shears that will make your life a lot easier. You'll notice that I am leaving this flat on the table as I am cutting. You can rotate your project as needed, but if you're trying to cut it up in the air like this, not only are you not going to cut well, but you're making your life a lot harder than it needs to be. So we're leaving our project flat on the counter, working our way around those notches and cutting out along the outside edge. Remember that as you're initially cutting out your pattern pieces and cutting off all of the scrap extra fabric, paper, you do not want to be using your shears for that. We only use our shears to cut fabric, not to cut paper. So we want our shears to stay nice and sharp for cutting fabric. So you're going to work your way around, cutting out this pattern just about done with the body of our bag here. Now if you're looking at this and kind of thinking through this process as we're cutting here, you are cutting through 2 layers of fabric here. This is going to cut the front side and the back side of your bag at the same time. One more little cut here, and we've got our bag cut out and ready to go. We're now going to work our way around the pocket. Again, the straighter you cut, the easier this is going to be for you to line up later. If your cuts look like a drunken little soldier, it's going to be a lot harder for you to line and match things up as you start the construction process. One last side here, and we are ready to move on to our next step.